Your airline can destroy a $10,000 suitcase and legally owe you $4,700. International? That drops to $2,000. Those are legal ceilings. Most travelers never hear the two words that break the cap: excess valuation. Airport agents rarely say them out loud. The airlines are not required to, and they don't. Here's why silence costs you thousands. Airlines mishandled roughly 24 million bags worldwide in 2025. That sounds like improvement, until you look at the cost per incident. Airlines now spend an average of $260 just to locate and return a single lost bag. Here is what they don't advertise. That $260 is an operational cost. It is not a payout. It is what it costs them to find your bag, not what they owe you if it never comes back. When luggage disappears permanently, federal law hands you a number: $4,700 per passenger on domestic flights, about $2,000 on international routes. And here is the catch. They do not pay replacement value. They pay depreciated actual cash value, what your item is worth today, not what you paid for it. A 5-year-old camera becomes a garage sale item. A $2,000 suit becomes a $50 check.
Transfer flights are the weakest link in this entire system. They account for 39% of all mishandled bags. Tight connection windows and manual ground sorting create exactly the conditions where a bag quietly vanishes.
This did not happen by accident. In 1893, Congress watched ocean carriers stuff their shipping contracts with clauses that tried to erase all liability for negligence. Lose your cargo, and the carrier owed you nothing. Congress drew a line with the Harter Act. Carriers could limit their liability, but they could not erase it completely. That compromise became the Released Value Doctrine, a cheap rate with a capped payout, or a higher rate with full protection. If you take the cheap rate and never declare a higher value, the law treats you as having accepted the cap. When commercial aviation took off in the 1920s, lawmakers copied this framework directly onto airline tickets. Same choice, same default, same trap. The airlines did not design this system. They inherited it, and they never bothered to explain it to you. The law gave airlines a ceiling. Then a baggage cart in Dallas proved it was a wall. In 1987, Edward Deiro checked 9 racing Greyhounds onto an American Airlines flight. During a layover in Dallas, a baggage cart sat unshaded on the tarmac in 97-degree heat. 7 dogs died of heat stroke. 2 more suffered injuries. Deiro sued for over $100,000. American Airlines pointed to the fine print on the back of his ticket. Liability capped at $750. The Ninth Circuit agreed. Even gross negligence by ground crew was not enough to break the cap. Under federal law, the only escape is proving the airline itself stole the property for its own gain. A dead dog on the tarmac does not meet that bar. 9 dogs. $100,000 in damages. $750 in recovery. Justice denied 9 times over. That is not a loophole in the system. That is the system working exactly the way it was built to work. It is not an isolated ruling. A decade earlier, the same court dealt with Northwest Airlines after a golden retriever died in their care from negligence. Northwest tried to go further than a cap. They claimed a filed tariff exempted them from all liability for animal deaths. The court struck that down. An airline cannot write itself a total exemption from its own negligence, but the underlying cap stood untouched. Northwest still only paid the declared limit. The takeaway is the same across both cases. Airlines cannot erase liability entirely, but they can build a ceiling that is almost impossible to break. And they do, every time, by default. So here is what governs your bag today. On international flights, the Montreal Convention sets the cap at 1,519 special drawing rights. That translates to roughly $2,000. Less than one MacBook Pro and a weekend bag. And under the modern rules, even gross negligence cannot pierce that ceiling, unless you filed a special declaration before the flight. On domestic flights, the Department of Transportation sets the floor at $4,700 per passenger, effective January 2025. Unlike the international rules, domestic law lets you claim provable consequential costs. If a delayed bag forces you to buy a suit for a meeting, you can claim that receipt. But only up to the cap, and only if you can prove it. But here is the part almost nobody knows, and it is the reason you are still watching. There is one sentence you can say at that check-in counter that makes the airline tear up its own ceiling. It goes by two words: excess valuation. At check-in, you tell the airline what your bag is worth, say $8,000, instead of the default $4,700. You pay a supplemental fee, usually a small fraction of the declared amount. And by law, the airline's liability ceiling rises to match what you declared. If the contents are not prohibited, the carrier has to accept it. Here is the catch, and it is the whole point of this video. No agent is required to offer you this option. The law does not force disclosure, it only permits the choice. Without that declaration, you are locked into the default cap, no matter what is in your bag. With it, you force the airline to treat your property as genuinely valuable, on the record, before anything goes wrong. This is not buried in fine print you would need a lawyer to find. It is buried in silence. An option that exists, but that nobody at the counter is going to bring up unless you do. So here is where the story turns. The same federal framework that built that wall in 1893 also left a door in it, a legal, guaranteed mechanism. The key costs less than airport parking. For the price of a bad sandwich, you can turn their $4,700 wall into an $8,000 floor. Most travelers never even try the handle. The airlines hope you never will. You now know the two words that can turn a $4,700 wall into an $8,000 guarantee. Edward Deiro did not know them, and it cost him $99,000. Most travelers still do not know them. The airlines are banking on you being one of them. That ends today, but knowing the door exists is not enough. You have to know why the door is hidden. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. Federal law prioritizes carrier viability over passenger recovery, and the Released Value Doctrine assumes you read the contract, understood the choice, and knowingly accepted the risk. Most travelers do none of those things. They hand over a bag and assume full replacement coverage exists. It does not. Airlines apply automatic depreciation schedules that can cut an item's value by 10 to 30% per year of age. No receipt means no proof, and no proof means garage sale math. If you packed cash, jewelry, or electronics without declaring them, the airline's contracted carriage probably lists them as unacceptable outright. Courts have upheld those exclusions when the warning was clear. The economic loss doctrine blocks most tort claims, meaning you cannot sue for emotional distress or lost wages from a missing bag. Your recovery is limited to breach of contract. The only way to break the ceiling is before the flight, not after the loss. Declare the value, pay the fee, keep the paperwork, or accept the $4,700 reality. So here is your playbook. Next time you check a bag, lay everything out on your bed first. Photograph it, time-stamped, right next to the open suitcase. That photo is your first line of evidence if the airline later claims your $500 jacket was worn out before they lost it. Keep original receipts or a credit card statement for anything worth more than a couple $100. If the total value in that bag is anywhere near the statutory cap, grab those receipts and slide them into a folder on your phone before you leave the house. Now, picture the counter. You are checking in. The agent asks the usual questions. Before they print your tag, You say it. Excess valuation. You watch their face for a second. Most passengers never say those words, so some agents pause. You tell them what the bag is worth. You pay the fee, usually a small fraction of that number. And just like that, the airline's liability ceiling moves to match your bag, not their default. Now fast forward. You land in Chicago, and your bag never comes off the belt. Before you leave the airport, you walk to the baggage service desk and file a property irregularity report. That report generates the tracking reference your entire claim will depend on later. Skip it, and you may not have a claim at all. If the bag turns up late, keep every receipt for what you had to buy in the meantime. Airlines cannot just impose an arbitrary daily spending cap on you if those purchases were reasonable. If they try, that is Federal Rule 14 CFR Part 254. They know it. They are just betting you do not. If you are flying internationally, the clock is stricter. 7 days to file a written claim for damage, 21 days for a delay. Miss that window, and the claim is dead, no matter how strong your evidence is. And if the airline's final number still falls short, that is when you turn to your credit card's travel protection or a third-party policy. Many of those cover full replacement cost, no depreciation attached. One last thing, and it costs you nothing. Before you ever pack a bag, check what you already have. Some premium credit cards and renters or homeowners policies already cover checked luggage, sometimes at no extra charge. Find that out now, not while you're standing at a claims counter at midnight. None of this takes a lawyer. It just takes knowing the words exist and saying them before your bag ever leaves your hands. The law gives you real rights. Your rights. It just buries them in defaults built to favor the carrier and hopes you never go looking. Now, you know exactly where the door is and what it costs to open it. Next time, we are looking at the Homestead Act clause that squatters' rights attorneys are quietly using in 2026 and why a single sentence from 1862 could legally hand your backyard to someone who never paid for it. You will want to see that one.